day.Com.
You're now tuned into the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day, to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there, even when the success you've expected to achieve has yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get to use those personal initiative. That is the go-getter energy that moves any one of us, including yourself, to go and make things happen instead of wait for things to happen. And then we put all this together into a series of frameworks, approaches, insights, strategies, and techniques, all underneath the umbrella of one unified philosophy that is called Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. And today's topic is how to prioritize your day. Before we get into this, I remind you of two things. First of all, a daily motivation message guaranteed to have you focused, sharp, and on point to start your day. Once we start sending it again, you'll be getting it straight to your phone. So text me at my number, 305-384-6894. Free to join. You can even choose how much you're going to hear from us once we start sending it again. Secondly, Work on Your Game University. You'd like to have me as your direct coach for your mindset, strategy, systems, and accountability for your forward movement personally and professionally. That's the place that it happens. Again, it is Work on Your Game University. That link, workonyourgameuniversity.com. Just go there. You can see everything that our program is about, what we're doing, who we're working with, how we can help you, and you can decide to raise your hand to take the next steps. With that out the way, let's get into the topic again, which is how to prioritize your day. Now, it is said, I heard that someone said that this concept was birthed, it's hard to say that word, by the author Stephen Covey, known for 7 Habits of Highly Effective People fame. And I didn't hear him say it directly. I didn't read it directly from him, but I'll give a hat tip to him since somebody said it came from him. Maybe it did. But I heard this mentioned somewhere else, so I'll give a tip to him. But what I'm going to do is take these points that I heard and I'm going to flesh them out. That's what I do. Sometimes I take an idea or a concept that I hear from someone outside of myself, flesh it out and make it into my own material, which is exactly what's going to happen here with today's masterclass. Again, the topic is how to prioritize your day. This one doesn't need a ton of lead up, but I know that a lot of you as entrepreneurs, and those of you who are able to make your own schedules, even if not an entrepreneur, sometimes we run into the challenge of getting to the end of the day, but still having more stuff to do. Any of you ever get to that, have that problem? You got more stuff to do, but the day is over and you're like, damn, wait a minute, why did I not get all these things done? You had all these big plans at the start of the day. You get to the end of the day and like half of your plans didn't even get done. Maybe 2/3 of your plans didn't get done. Maybe 90% of your plans didn't get done. How did this happen? I'm going to help you deconstruct how this happens and also help you to do it the right way. Got it? Good. Point number one. Topic, once again, is how to prioritize your day. First thing is we got to get the rocks in there. So what I want you to picture is if you had a big glass, just a big glass container. So like a vase, or even if it was a glass that was for drinking water, just a glass. First thing you got to put in there is the rocks. The rocks go first. The rocks are the priorities. So everybody knows what a rock is, right? Okay, so think big rock, small rock, just a rock. These are the things that make the biggest difference in your life and will most help you advance and move forward when they are completed. So the rocks are the things that when you do them, they make the biggest impact on your forward progress and forward movement. Usually, the rocks are the hardest things to do because sometimes a rock can be very difficult to lift or move or to get it out of the space that is in. If it's a really big rock, and rocks are usually the hardest things to do. Again, this is a metaphor, of course. They are often the most time-consuming things to do, and they're the ones that we most often put off doing because the difficulty involved in doing them causes us to instead defer to doing things that seem more easy, that we can do more quickly, and that we have more confidence that we can do successfully. So we tend to put off the big things. We tend to put off handling the rocks, not because we don't understand their value, not because we don't have the resources to get them done, but because human beings are naturally lazy. All human beings are naturally lazy. We are wired to conserve our energy. This goes back to the caveman days when the caveman had to conserve his or her energy so that they could run away from or fight off a rival caveman or a saber-toothed tiger, or had to go run down some food that they had to kill and eat, because this was literally a life or death situation. Now, while all of us with our internet connections and smartphones are not living in a life or death situation every day, especially those of you who are listening to this show, it is still wired within us to want to conserve energy as much as possible. So whenever you find yourself being lazy, not doing things that you know you are supposed to do, or that you know you need to do, or that you have even written down and told yourself you were going to do today, and you're still not doing them, this is because it's part of your human wiring to be lazy. So in one sense, you can feel actually not so bad about yourself because this is just your natural human instinct to be lazy and to save energy and to not do stuff that you know you're supposed to do. At the same time, following your natural human instinct and doing what comes naturally makes you average, because that's what most people do. And if you are a listener to this show, you have heard me talk about this before. And if you are a new listener to the show, you're going to hear me say it for the first time, but it will not be the last. If you catch yourself doing things that most other people do, then you are on your way to Averageville, and you will stay there for a long time. There you will remain. You don't want to find yourself having too much in common with most people, because most people are average and most people do whatever comes naturally to us. And I just told you, what comes naturally to you as a human being is to be lazy. Don't do this. So in order for you to not be lazy, guess what? You have to go against the grain of your natural human instinct and actually push yourself to do things that you may not want to do or may not feel like doing in a moment. This is what separates you from everybody else out there. And you do it often enough, here's what happens. You don't have to keep pushing yourself. It becomes a normal habit. It becomes part of your wiring as a person, to where it is normal. It becomes more normal to do stuff than it becomes normal to not do stuff. But you have to push to build this as a habit. You got to hold yourself accountable to build in this discipline and make it a new thing for you. For example, some of you who are listening to the show are people who work out every day. You go to the gym or outside or in your living room, whatever. You do a workout every single day. And I mean a serious workout every single day. I'm that type of person. And I know that a lot of people in my audience are like that, because my background is in sports. So I know I have a lot of sports adjacent people listening to this, even if you're not an athlete. And here's the thing. For many of you, some of you, let me say, some of you are wired similar to me in that you not working out for an entire day would feel completely abnormal, and you actually probably would not even allow it to happen. All right, there are some people listening to this know exactly what that feels like. That you couldn't even let yourself go a whole day and not work out. I couldn't let myself go a whole day and not work out. It's impossible. Anywhere that I'm at, whatever I'm doing, I am going to get some type of workout in every single day, no matter what. Even when I'm traveling, I'm going to get a workout in. It's non-negotiable. And I would say it's on my calendar. It technically is on my calendar, but it's not like I got to look at the calendar and say, oh yeah, I got to work out today. I don't have to think about it. I know it's happening. And many of you have those things that are non-negotiables for you in your life. It might not be working out. It might be something else. It might be, if you're a deeply religious person, it might be taking time to read your religious text, or a prayer that you need to do every day. Whatever it is, you may have, most of you who are listening to this have some type of non-negotiable in your life, whether it be work related, whether it be family related, whether it be spiritual related, whether it be fitness related, something. You have those non-negotiables. Those are your rocks. Those are your priorities. You need to make sure that they get done. And now all you need to do is take the same discipline that you apply to those, to the things that you want to be priorities, and you want them to produce the same way that you're producing in those areas that are the rocks, and put the same discipline on that. Point number 2. And again, one more thing about this. The discipline, folks, is in doing things anyway, even when you don't really feel like doing them. That's the discipline. Despite the difficulties, despite the friction, despite the feelings of not wanting to do it. This is what separates the pros from the amateurs, is moving yourself to do things when you don't feel like doing them. And in my book, The Third Day, I explain to you exactly how to separate yourself as a pro from the amateurs. That's literally the subtitle of the book. You can get a free copy of that book by going to thirddaybook.com. Point number 2, today's topic, once again, is how to prioritize your day. So we got the rocks in there. So you put all the rocks in the glass. And the next thing is the gravel. Now, gravel is like broken down rocks. Rocks have been beaten up usually by the waves of the ocean. They ground themselves down in the gravel. The gravel are the interruptions. So in the course of your day, the first thing you're going to handle is the rocks, the priorities. Next thing you got to handle is the interruptions. The more people you have around you in your life, and when I say around you, that could be if you work at home, for example, you may have people in your home besides you, and you're in your workspace, whether that's a desk, whether it's the kitchen table, whether you have an office, whether you lock yourself down in the basement, whatever it is. The more people you have around you, the more opportunity there are for interruptions. And also depending on how you've communicated with the people around you, whether or not you are available to be interrupted. Dan Kennedy has a book called No BS Time Management for Entrepreneurs. I suggest that you go read it. Any of you as an entrepreneur who wants to get better at not being interrupted, or being interrupted less often by the people around you. The more you have, though, the more people who are in your space, and the more in demand you are as a person, the more interruptions are possible, and the more you will probably have. Again, depending on the way you have structured your home, your life, your office, your business. Ideally, you structure things in such a way that people around you know that they should not be interrupting you, and they can take care of things that would be interruptions. So let's just say you have an administrative assistant, you have an executive assistant, a staff member their whole job, some people call these people gatekeepers. When you're on the outside, we call them a gatekeeper. These are the people whose very job is to block other people from coming in and interrupting you. So when I'm getting on the phone and making cold calls, if I'm trying to reach a CEO or an executive vice president, they have an administrator, that's what they call themselves, or a secretary or whatever they call themselves. They don't call themselves a gatekeeper, but they act as a gatekeeper because their job is to keep people like me from getting that executive vice president on the phone if it wasn't a scheduled conversation. That's literally their job. So it's like this back and forth cat and mouse games going on between me and them. I'm trying to get around them and they're trying to block me. The whole point is to stop the executive vice president from being interrupted. And I want to interrupt them. All right, that's my job, to interrupt them, and their job, the executive assistant's job, is to keep me from interrupting them. So again, it's like a tennis match. We're going back and forth and I'm trying to get around them and trying to stop me. So you want to have things structured so that you can't be interrupted. And this is, again, why CEOs have secretaries, they have admins, they have gatekeepers whose very job is to block people like me from interrupting the work that they're supposed to be doing. Again, going back to what I just said, human nature, though, is we want to be interrupted because every time we get interrupted, guess what we don't have to do? The hard work that comes with doing the priorities. See, this is the reason why we get interrupted so often. So any of you, especially those of you, actually, this could be anybody because we all got smartphones. Everybody here has a smartphone that's within arm's reach of them. Most of you, your smartphone is within arm's reach of you right now while you're listening to me talk, right? So everybody has that as a possible distraction. The reason that many of us don't get our most important work done, our priorities, not because we don't know about them, is because we allow the interruptions to go ahead of the priorities. And that's it. So me, again, trying to reach the executive vice president instead of having to go through the gatekeeper, the executive vice president would probably rather take a phone call from me, who they don't even know, than do the work that they're supposed to be doing right now, because talking to me is more pleasant than doing that hard work that they need to be doing. You understand? See, this is the reason why we get interrupted so often and why we don't get to our priorities, our alleged priorities, because something's actually a priority, you're not doing anything else till it's done, if it's really a priority. But see, we treat our priorities as if they're not priorities. And this is, again, the main reason why things get left undone or they get pushed down the line of the calendar as if we have more time, and then things end up not getting done. This is the human tragedy, if I had to explain it in a sentence. So if you don't have anyone or anything blocking all the potential interruptions in your life, those things become actual interruptions. Your smartphone, for example, is a potential interruption. How many of you, just today so far today, some of you may be listening to this first thing in the morning, but so far today, how many of you have allowed yourself to be interrupted and delayed from doing what you're supposed to be doing because you're looking at something on your phone? How many of you have had that happen? All right, almost everybody who's listening to this, if you have picked up your phone today, you are probably guilty of this. If you have even opened a social media app just to see what was on the page, you didn't even scroll, you just opened it and looked at it, that was an interruption, because if it wasn't there, you wouldn't have looked at it, and that 2 seconds you could have used going towards whatever you're supposed to be doing, unless you happen to work for a social media company or you're a full-time social media poster, then that's probably not what you should be doing. Even if you're a content creator, all right, you don't create content by looking at Facebook, you create content by turning on the damn camera or typing or whatever it is that you do. So this is how, again, the interruptions, we got to be careful of these. There are apps these days that will block you from accessing apps on your smartphone. There are apps that will block you from accessing other apps. Why? Because it understands, those apps and the people who created them understand the value of blocking interruptions. Because every time you block an interruption, you got to remember, force being a force multiplier, the longer we can, focus being a force multiplier, the longer we can stay focused on the thing, the stronger our energies and powers become. Which means every time we break focus, we have to build back up from zero. Whereas if you stay focused on a thing for a longer period of time, your energies and your abilities and your resources are more highly recruited and they work better. So this is why blocking ourselves from task switching, i.e. breaking focus, matters so much. And again, when you have so many interruptions over the course of a day, then before you know it, you get to the end of the day, you're like, where the hell did the whole day go? I had all these things that I wanted to do. It's because the interruptions are blocking you from getting to the rocks. Got it? So that's why the rocks go first, interruptions go next. Third. Today's topic is how to prioritize your day. Third thing is dealing with the sand. So the sand is like the fine version of gravel. All right, all of you have been to the beach before, you know what sand is. So gravel is a little bit thicker and stronger. So gravel might be, sometimes you drive your car into a parking lot and there's a gravel parking lot. So there's all these little pebble-sized rocks, or small size. They're rocks, but they're smaller rocks. That's gravel. Sand is like the real fine stuff that when you go to the beach and you can stick your toes in it and bury your kids in it and play around it. That's sand. So it's a finer version of gravel. Sand is the random daily happenings, or they are the random daily happenings that occur in your life. These are related to interruptions, but they're not necessarily interruptions. So the interruptions are the things that stop you from what you're supposed to be doing. The sand is the stuff that just happens over the course of a day. It's just stuff that you have to do, things you do every single day. So eating lunch is sand. Scrolling through social media, and you're not going to stop yourself from doing it at all. Social media is sand because we know we're going to do it. It's just a matter of when we do it and how much we do it, and how much and if we're supposed to be doing something else when we do it. It's not a matter of if you can keep yourself from doing it. If you have a social media account, you're probably going to get on social media. Text messages that you decide to engage with, depending on how often you text, you may have a bunch of messages. I know some people. I keep my text message inbox empty. I don't even like text messages carrying over from one day to the next. But I know people, mostly females. I don't know a lot of men of whom this is true, but a lot of females I've known, if this has been true, they'll have like 300 unread text messages in your phone. I'm like, who the hell are you texting? There's so many messages in there, and you haven't even gotten to them. Like, what are you doing? But anyway, text message is another form of the sand. Going to the bathroom is a form of the sand. It's going to happen every day. It's just a matter of how much is it happening, and phone calls that come in. Again, I just told you, when I'm cold calling, I'm a phone call that comes in, and the executive vice president knows he's going to get phone calls every day. It's just a matter of what do you do with those phone calls? Are they being screened out? Are you engaging with them when you're supposed to be doing some other work? Are you putting them all off until you can knock them all out at once? Again, read Dan Kennedy's book on time management for entrepreneurs. He talks about all of this stuff and helps categorize and make a whole lot of sense of it in a way that's very straightforward and very clean. Now, whether or not you apply it is a whole different question, but does he give you the information? He absolutely does. And he gives you the ways to use it also. So the thing is, with all of this stuff, phone calls that come in, traffic jams that throw off your schedule. Again, traffic jam could be you just trying to get something done. There's a bunch of stuff happening in your office, or a literal traffic jam when you're trying to drive somewhere. These are random daily occurrences. And you may be wondering, how can you organize these into your schedule and into your process? Well, the answer is you want to set up your environment in such a way that these random occurrences have as little influence over your schedule and over your day as possible. That's the goal. You want to make sure that they don't interrupt you as much. So, for example, if you know you need to go to the bank tomorrow, instead of going at 12 in the afternoon during rush hour on the last day of the month or the first day of the month when everybody's at the bank, and you know it's going to be a traffic jam, you know it's going to take you 30 minutes longer than it needed to take you. How about you go to the bank at first thing in the morning, like as soon as it opens, 8 o'clock, so you're the first customer on a day that most people aren't at the bank, whatever that would be. I don't actually physically go in the bank so much myself, but you would know if you're a person randomly who regularly goes to the bank, go off peak. So instead of going to the grocery store at 11:30 in the morning on a Saturday when everybody's there, instead go first thing in the morning when it first opens on a Tuesday, where you can go in, you can shop, you can get all your stuff and be the first person in line, and there's no traffic jam even getting out of the parking lot because nobody else there. All right, so we call that living off peak. You want to do things off peak. Off peak is when you do stuff that can be done. You're just doing it at an hour that would seem random to most people because you are doing it at a time that most people would not do that thing. Maybe everybody else is doing something else. So off peak is the time that you want to do a lot of your stuff that you know other human beings are going to be doing, but you want to avoid the traffic. All right, everybody get it? So off peak, you go to the bank at different times of day, different hours. Like when I used to go to, I have a printer now at home. Whenever someone orders books that I'm going to ship, sometimes I don't ship the books, but sometimes I do. I bought a laser printer, which prints the labels that go on the envelopes in boxes that we ship books out in. I used to have to take those books to the post office to get them shipped off. Now, luckily, as of the date of this recording, I live in a building where I can drop the packages off downstairs at our our package room, and the United States Postal Service or FedEx or UPS always comes every day, and they will take the outgoing mail from the building. So I don't have to do anything but just go downstairs and drop them off in the box, and they come get it, and I don't have to do anything. I have to go to the post office. But when I used to go to the post office, I realized that I needed to go off peak. I should not go to the post office at like 2 in the afternoon on a Wednesday because it'd be a lot of random people in there and you got to stand in line. And I found that the staff tend to be a lot more rude in the middle of the afternoon than they are first thing in the morning. Because guess what? First thing in the morning, they haven't dealt with any customers yet. So I like to be the first customer to walk in the door as soon as it opens. They were all nice and friendly. Like, damn, I never saw the person like this. So off peak. All right, that's what that means, going off peak. So you can avoid or at least minimize the effect of the daily interruptions that are inevitably going to happen. So again, this is about structuring your day in a disciplined way that aids your outcomes. Point number 4. Today's topic, once again, is how to structure your day. Number 4 is putting the water in the glass. So we put the rocks in, we put the gravel in, we put the sand in, last we put the water in. Notice this order of things that we're putting in are things that are smaller and smaller and more easily malleable to move around everything else that's already there. That's the point. Anything that remains after all this stuff, we did the priorities, we did the interruptions, the daily activities, now everything else is the water. That goes in here because once you have rocks and gravel and sand in a glass, so you pour water in, well, guess what? A lot of water will fit in because it will fill in every other gap that is available, can get filled in by the water. You understand the metaphor here? These are the things that maybe you did not foresee, maybe you did not expect. This is the water part, but they do happen because things just occur in life. So let's say your kid pees on himself, and now you got to stop and clean him up. Or somebody randomly knocks on the door and wants to have a conversation, and you stop to have the conversation. That's a random thing that occurs. Or your toilet stops working, or the power goes out. Whatever it is, those are random things that you didn't foresee, you could not have predicted, you couldn't have planned for, but they happen, and you got to deal with them. That's the water. Those are the things that go last. Now, again, sometimes this could be a one-time thing that takes 5 minutes, or it could be an ongoing issue that covers several weeks or months. The point is, they get dealt with last after you deal with everything else that's on the list. All right, so everything else has to come first. This is the key here, folks, is you got to know what your priorities are, and you must execute on your priorities with discipline and with speed and swiftness. And when the priorities are being taken care of, that is the thing that is most helping you move forward and makes the biggest impact on your forward progress. Then it's easier to deal with the interruptions and the daily stuff and everything else because you know you handled the big stuff. So even if the interruptions slow you down from getting everything else, okay, at least I know I handled the big stuff today. Even if some daily stuff takes up a lot of time today, at least you know you took care of the big stuff. Even if some random occurrence happens and it throws off half of your day, at least you know you prioritize the big stuff. That's why the big stuff has to come first. Now, point number 5, I'm going to lay this all out again. We're talking here today about how to prioritize your day, and the metaphorically we're using putting these items into a glass. So point number 5 is this. If you picture a glass, I told you this on the first point, with all these 4 items next to it. So you have rocks, you have gravel, you have sand, and you have water. You want to put the rocks in first. Most people do this the opposite way. This is the issue. All right, I'm telling you what not to do. Okay, here's what not to do. Don't do it the way you've been doing it, which is the opposite way. Most people do things the opposite way, and they let every random occurrence take up all their time first. Then they handle the daily activities, the minute daily activities. Then they handle the interruptions. And then if there's any time left, they'll get to the priorities. And then what happens is they get to the end of the day, there's no time left. They don't get to their priorities. They're like, damn, didn't get to my priorities. Uh-oh, I guess I'll wait till tomorrow. And that happens over and over and over and over and over again. And pages keep flying off the calendar and your priorities still are not being done. I just gave you a microcosm of your life. Now I'm going to tell you what to do. I just told you what not to do. What you do is flip this around. Handle priorities first. Yes, this is the most work. Yes, it will take the most time. Yes, it takes the most effort. Yes, it takes the most brain energy. Handle those first. When those are done, then you allow the interruptions to be addressed. Then you handle the daily activities. Then everything else is left. You get to it if there is time for everything else. And if there's not, so what? Is everything else not a priority? So it's okay if you don't get to it. It's okay if you don't get to all the little things because they're little things. As the saying goes, you don't want to major in minor things. Many people never get to their priorities, not because you can't and not because you don't have the intention. It's simply because you have structured yourself in such a way that discipline is not possible. You are structuring your way that is anti-discipline. So if you want to have more discipline in your life, structure the situation so that the discipline is easy. I told you this before. All right, discipline is a byproduct of structure, everybody. And structure is a byproduct of a decision. You have to make a decision of this is what I want. It's also a byproduct of a standard. Standard leads to a decision, or let me say a decision leads to a standard. Standard leads to a structure, structure to a discipline, discipline to confidence, confidence to performance, performance to results, results to rewards. That's the order of operation. Main thing that hinders our productivity and effectiveness is we have poor structures or no structure. No structure is a poor structure, by the way. The solution to this is the discipline to do things in their proper order. And there's an order of operations that you must follow. All right, so this is kind of scientific in that way. That said, let's recap today's class. It says how to prioritize your day. Number one, you want to prioritize the priorities. Those are the rocks, the biggest thing. Number 2 are the interruptions, also metaphorically known as the gravel. Number 3 are the random daily occurrences, that's known as the sand. And number 4 is everything else, that's the water. And point number 5 is you want to put these things in the proper order that I just gave you. The rocks first, then the gravel, then the sand, then the water. That way, at least some of everything can fit into the glass. If you do it the opposite way, putting in water, then sand, then gravel, then rocks, you might not be able to fit even one rock into the glass. And that's how your priorities are ending up undone. Don't let this happen anymore, because I just told you exactly what to do. All that said, text me, see you in my community. My number's down below in the description. And workonyourgameuniversity.com. If you would like to work with me directly and have me as your direct coach, that's where it happens. That's how it goes down. Again, workonyourgameuniversity.com. Work on your game. Dre, all